So today I'm going to reflect on why marriages fail. I woke up today and I'm in my hotel. It's a few days after, it's Thursday after Camila and James's engagement party. I'm here in my hotel first morning, and I started listening to this podcast, Divorce Attorney's Thoughts on Love and Marriage. Pretty entertaining. He's pretty funny, charismatic guy. It's 2.5 million views in 1 month. Really good video. But the majority, he basically shows that, I'm sure you don't have to be told. The statistics on marriage is 58% fail, 70% fail. I think if women are college educated, the failure rate is like 90%, almost guaranteed. And interesting note that he puts in this video is that marriage today actually justifiably falls under negligence in the law. There's an equation that he puts in there. I can't remember what it is, but it's essentially the chance of not doing something versus the risk of loss and some other piece is higher than the risk of loss. I'm butchering it. Long story short, there's an equation that they use in law to calculate negligence, and divorce actually equates to negligence by law to go into a marriage contract with a high failure rate over 58%. So, anyways, I need to collect my thoughts. My brain's not really working right now, which kind of shows So I've been thinking over the past few days what I'm going to be doing with the next 6 months to a couple of years of my life, traveling, buying a place, hometown, moving to Austin, Texas. 100% I've decided that this is like the first time I've been able to sit down and really like work and stuff, and I've actually got a call with Jack Cole, which is one of my clients for community development, in like 30 minutes. He's doing a community call with his community, so I've got about 22 minutes to shoot this video. Long story short, I'm going to need some kind of more stability and structure when it comes to traveling, either a van life, like a fully decked out van life that I can literally live out of full time and work out of, or I just need to get a place and grind out. But anyways, let's get into marriage and why marriages fail, and kind of think about this. So there was another video that popped up this morning that I watched real quickly. It's called Law of Attraction by Miyamoto Musashi, which is the guy that I was talking about in the previous video of like Solitude. He was the sword fighter. He killed like 60 or 70 people in one-on-one combat solo duels. And he was a philosopher and a traveling ronin, which is a samurai without a master. And one of his lessons is, I'm sure you're familiar with the law of attraction, but specifically I like this kind of brutal, honest approach to law of attraction, because I think Western society kind of fluffs up or romanticizes law of attraction, whereas he was much more realistic and pragmatic towards it.
The best way to get what you want is by deserving it.
That right there. So I'm a firm believer that the universe gives you exactly what you want in the context of anything. So if you want love and you aren't getting love, it's because you're not lovable. You don't deserve love. And that's a really harsh realization and pill to swallow. But, I think it's true. I think if you want marriage and you're not getting a successful marriage, it's because you don't deserve marriage. You don't deserve a successful marriage. And I think that goes both ways in relationships today. And I think a lot about the different people that I've known throughout my life that have gotten married, the ones that have succeeded, the ones that have failed. And there's a lot of ways to argue why marriage fails. I think all of it is pointless to, I kind of visualized sitting with someone and sitting with another man and talking about marriage. And I know a lot of people, anybody that watches this would it's very natural to sit down and argue like, oh, marriage fails because this, and 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 this. And I imagined sitting in a room with somebody for a year and discussing why marriages fail. And then at the end of the year, you come out of that room what have you really done? What have you really discussed, or what have you grown from? How have you gotten better by arguing and discussing and rationalizing and thinking why marriages has failed? And I think this comes towards personal experience because I used to be a hyper analytical person. I used to, I grew up. I literally started my career studying like physics and mechanical engineering, and I had a deep passion for astrophysics and amateur obsession with like extremely complex stuff like quantum mechanics and thermodynamics and stuff like that. But I was my younger self, 20-year-old Gareth. If you're familiar with I define my young self as Gareth, the crazy wild person. But he was hyper analytical. He only believed in what he saw, and anything he couldn't explain or anything that science couldn't prove was not real. I was very much the dogmatic scientific person, the person that science was literally my religion, which is funny to say, but if you get that, but I realized over the years, over the past, I guess 17 years, I would say 15 years old is when I really started to develop that identity. I've shifted. I don't believe that the rational mind is as smart as we think it is. I don't think that you can think things through. There's certain things that you cannot think through, nor is it good to even waste time thinking about it because there are so many variables that you don't know. I think, while I'm thinking, I'm contradicting myself. This is a paradox. The rational mind is, I think, the ego wants to believe it's smart enough to understand certain things that cannot be understood. The ego, there's a part of your psyche that wants to believe it's smart enough to figure something out. And it does that because it wants to reduce anxiety, actually. Marriage, for example. If you are worried about your marriage ending in divorce or failing, or if you want a successful marriage, or if you want to be married to somebody for the rest of your life, which I really respect that because my grandma and grandpa were married for their entire life and they built an empire together. That is my dream. But to try to sit for a year, theoretically or hypothetically, with a person or yourself thinking about why marriage fails, I think it's mostly a waste of time because you're just not smart enough to know exactly why marriages fail. So what is the solution to that? Well, I think it's still important to acknowledge the statistics and acknowledge why most marriages fail. And you should identify the major reasons why marriages fail. But I don't want to fall into the habit of like becoming obsessed about thinking about why marriages fail because I think it's a waste of time. So imagine the one road where you spend a year thinking about and hypothetically arguing why marriages fail, and you come out of that room. You're not going to be any better of a person. You're not going to be growing. You're not going to come out of there stronger or more capable of handling a marriage because all you did was sit there and think about the negative. Law of attraction, simple example. You never see people that like obsess about coupons. The people that go to stores and they basically get stuff for free, where they spend all their time hunting for coupons to save as much money as possible. You never see those people as millionaires. People that obsess about saving and protecting and living a scarcity mindset, or they're driven by fear or insecurity, you never see those people have abundance. You never see those people multimillionaires. Multimillionaires don't do that. So if you take that same approach to marriage or relationships, if you obsess about all of the negative, you will attract the negative. You'll actually attract divorce, and there is loose science that proves that. So what's the alternative? If you want a successful marriage and you want a successful long-term relationship, how do you develop behaviors and habits to make that succeed? And then how do you become someone who is worthy of marriage and love? We say right here.
The best way to get what you want is by deserving it.
Yeah, so how do you deserve a happy long-term relationship? Well, I think you have to become someone who deserves it. So instead of spending a year focusing on the negative and arguing about, masculinity and femininity is destructive and toxic, or gender norms are destroyed in America, men and women are blah 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 blah, the court system is blah 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 blah, all the reasons that we can argue why marriages don't work and relationships don't work nowadays. Fuck all that. Fuck all that. Don't think about that. What can I do to become the best version of myself, to attract that, to be deserving of that? And let's think about this. If you become, like, theoretically, if you become the best version of yourself, like, you just really work towards being the most capable person of handling, the most capable version of yourself to handle a successful relationship and a successful marriage, you will theoretically attract a woman that is equal to that. Now, it's a big if, but your odds will probably increase. There's another concept, too, that comes to my mind thinking about this. This is something I teach, and it's the kingdom of infinite use. It's a catchy name. James actually helped me with that one, so I can't take credit for it. But the kingdom of infinite use. So, I am who I am right now. But in 30 minutes, I'm going to be a different person because I'm going to have more knowledge and more experiences and stuff that have happened to me that changed me. I'm not the same person I was yesterday. I'm not the same person I was a week ago. I'm not the same person I was a month, a year, 5 years, 10 years. I'm especially not Gareth anymore. At least I hope I'm not. And vice versa in the future. I am not who I am going to be tomorrow, and 2 weeks from now, a year from now, 10 years from now, 60, when I'm 60, 80 years old. I'm going to be a different version of myself. So with that idea, imagine that you are your own king. You are your own queen, if you're a woman watching this. You rule your kingdom of you. If you imagine every single point of your entire life and your entire existence, and you take all of those versions of yourself and you imagine them in a kingdom that you own, and you right now are the king or queen of that kingdom, what is the best thing you can do right now to serve all of them, to be good to all of them, to love all of them, to take care of all of them? What is it that you can do to achieve that, to be the best version of yourself every day? And I think that's a really good mindset to take towards improving yourself. And I think that also shows, like, don't focus on the things you can't focus on. There's certain things you can control in life. This comes directly from Stoicism and Socrates and Aristotle and all those guys, Plato. Don't waste time. Don't waste mental energy. Don't waste emotional energy. Don't develop thought patterns. Don't develop behaviors of obsessing about things you cannot control. I cannot control society. I cannot control culture. I cannot control 300 million people in America. I cannot control what the majority of women do in the world. I cannot control what the majority of men do in the world. I cannot control how developed or underdeveloped the pool of people are that I'm looking for in a partner. All I can do is control me. I can control my kingdom. I can control what I'm doing right now to be the best version of myself and all of the people in the kingdom of my infinite use. So, what do I need to do to become deserving of what I want in the future? And I don't think you can achieve that until you define what you want. And I've been thinking over the past few days, I have definitely struggled with becoming extremely emotionally intimate, and I don't even know how to describe what it is. I've always kept women at a distance to protect myself and to make sure that I'm not hurt. And there's a lot of past experiences and trauma that have happened to me in my life when it comes to relationships and women. And I've also had a deep fear of having children and them experiencing the same things that I experienced throughout my life. And you naturally want to protect your children, and you want to make sure you give them the best opportunity for success in life. And I personally want my children to have a very stable and safe life. I don't want them to have a sheltered life. I want them to go out in the world and do hard shit, and I want them to have I want them to have the opportunity to overcome their obstacles on their own so that they can develop their own identity and their own self-worth and their own values and become their own individual. I want to assist them in the process of individuation. If you don't know what individuation is, it's Carl Jung psychology. It's essentially the development of the psyche. If you think about an old person that you really knew, or an old person that you've met or experienced or been close to, and they're at peace with themselves, like they're 80 years old and they're really happy, they're filled with joy, they love their life, they psychologically and emotionally they are fully developed, like they really figured out life. And then think about an old person that you know or have experienced that is miserable, that hates their lives, that hates themselves, self-loathing, depression, just they when you look at them, they did not live a good life and they did not make good decisions. That would be, you could argue that person did not complete the process of individuation, which is the full development of the psyche. So, anyways, I want to facilitate that with my children that don't exist yet. Now, I don't think you want to coddle or protect your children, because that simultaneously creates their own trauma, and by protecting children, you actually hurt them, because then they're not capable of withstanding and surviving the world on their own. You need to allow them to fully develop into who they need to be. But on top of that, that also comes into factor of the woman that you choose, the wife that you choose, the mother of the children that you choose. She is going to have a massive impact on their development and your children. So I think I found that every time I focus on the farthest out I can perceive, that gives me the most clarity on what I need to be doing right now. And then it's about, like, the story of my grandfather, looking at my grandfather's death and his funeral, and who the man he became. I can then put myself in those shoes the day I die, the day my funeral comes. Who do I want to be, and what do the stories I want to be told at my funeral? And why do I have a hair in my coffee? It looks like it's my hair, so that's fine. When I focus that far out, it makes it very easy to understand, like, the type of person I want to be. And I think, more importantly, when it comes to becoming a version of yourself, a kingdom of infinite use, becoming the version of yourself that deserves whatever it is that you want. It's much easier to become that when you focus on the character traits that you want to become, rather than the tactical. The English language is really bad at describing stuff like this. Like, I want a wife, so I need to make a lot of money and, buy a house and shit like that. Like that materialistic stuff. A lot of people focus on that, and that's not going to make you any better of a person. Instead, focus on the traits that you want to become. Like, think about the old person that completed the process of individuation, and fully developed themselves. What are their character traits? How would you describe them personality-wise? Are they kind? Are they sincere? Are they justified? Are they honest? Are they yada, yada, yada? Just describe who that person is. And I've done this a lot over the past 10 years. I've really refined down the traits that my grandfather was and other great men that I respect, and tried to understand and embody those traits and develop those traits, put myself into situations and develop behaviors and habits. The book Atomic Habits, phenomenal book to read and understand when it comes to this stuff, because whether you want to admit it or not, we are creatures of habits. And how do you develop habits that make you into who you need to be to deserve what you want? I think that's a way to think about it. Um, so yeah, I'm kind of just going right now. I've got 5 minutes till I got to jump on this call with Jack Cole. Something that pops into my mind talking about this is Marcus Aurelius and meditations. I need to read through and really study meditations more. Essentially, if you don't know, meditations, Marcus Aurelius was the most powerful man on the planet at the time that he wrote Meditations. And you can watch videos on him. Long story short, this man, like, could have, if he wanted 72 virgin children to blood sacrifice each other and do like the most heinous things in the world. Like he could literally do anything he wanted. He was the most powerful man in the world. He could have anything he wanted. He could have been the most deprived, destructive, disgusting version of what humanity could have been. But he chose not to do any of that. He chose to live a life of modesty and honesty and integrity. And he rejected so many things. Like he had all of the temptations in the world to do anything he wanted. And he rejected all of them to just basically just be a good man. Like that's really what it come down to. He just wanted to be a good man. And his discussion is essentially, what is a good man? And I think we often ask ourselves, who are we and why do we exist and why are we here? And there's so many answers to that. But it's really hard to answer those questions, and it's, you never really know. It's one of those questions that you never can really answer. But a much more practical approach is, what is a good man? And I think, what is a good woman? That is something you can define. That is much easier to define. What is good? Now, there's some subjectivity to that. I think it's unique to each individual, and especially culturally. But there's still like a common denominator across all cultures and people and religions and even time. You could go back, Marcus Aurelius, he existed 2,000 years ago, and we still respect and revere him tremendously. And I think his pursuit to become the best version of himself was how to be a good man. So, yeah. Some things to think about. What is a good man? What is a good woman? What type of behaviors do you need to develop in yourself? Habits you need to develop? Who do you need to surround yourself with? What traits do you need to embody to become that version of yourself? I got 1 minute. I'm going to wrap this up. Another thing that I was discussing with some people this week was sexual control. So in my 20s, I was really wild. I polyamorous, dating multiple women. I'll try to keep this as like straight, respectful as possible, but I've been around the block when it comes to sex and partying and all that stuff. I've slept with 3 women in the same day. It's not fulfilling. Waste of time, waste of energy, waste of masculine energy. This is something I was discussing with a woman. There's an idea. I think that'll be the thing that I talk about next. But there's this concept, especially in Hindu religion or Hinduism and Taoism. There's masculine energy, and then there's feminine energy. Masculine is solar. It's generative. It creates. It builds. It's the architect and the creator of society and your kingdom. The masculine brings in energy and then creates more energy and value. Money is a form of energy. Money is a form of exchange, or a conduit, or actually a medium of exchange of masculine energy. It's used to transact between traditionally men to exchange their value and their work and what they're doing. But a man who does not respect himself and is not aware of these things is who is unworthy, like literally. Uh, Kali from the Hindu god, the goddess Kali, she is the devourer, the feminine devourer, and she literally destroys the unworthy man. A man who does not respect his value and his masculine energy will give it out to the people that will siphon it. Like the stories of in Greek mythology of the succubus and the siren, and the what's that island that Odysseus went to, where he, like a pleasure island, and just wastes away his masculine energy and his sexual energy, giving it away to the wrong women, giving it away to the wrong friends and people in business. Those men will be destroyed. Those men, by Mother Nature's definition, those men are not worthy of what they create, and they will be destroyed. And literally, sometimes they actually die from not respecting themselves, not valuing and loving themselves, and having the correct focus on what they're looking for in life. And I can personally relate to that, because all of my 20s was basically, I made $250,000 from one YouTube video, and I don't know where it's at. It's not here in the hotel, but I just didn't value myself. I didn't respect myself. I was not worthy. Law of attraction. You get what you want out of life because you deserve it. And you see this with lottery winners. If I give you $1 million, you're probably going to be 99% chance you're going to be broke within a year. You're going to spend it because you don't deserve that wealth. You're not worthy of that wealth. You're not capable of managing that wealth. Most people, if you give them a kingdom, they won't do what Marcus Aurelius did. They won't strive to be a good person. You will destroy yourself. And I think COVID was a good example of this. COVID was an interesting psychological experience where we basically took the entire world for months, and we gave them freedom. We gave everyone in the world, you don't have to work, you don't have to go to a job, you don't have to do anything. You are free to do whatever you want in your home, relatively. People fucking devolved. A lot of relationships ended through COVID. A lot of people struggled. A lot of people fell into darkness. I fell into darkness. I fell into depression. When you give people too much freedom, too much wealth, when they're inbound energy and their inbound wealth, their masculine or feminine wealth. We didn't discuss the feminine side of energy because I don't have time to do it right now. But when that energy comes in too quickly, too much, and the person is not capable of handling it and respecting it and building it and nurturing it and taking care of it, it'll destroy them. It literally will destroy them. So you get what you deserve, and you can only maintain and handle what you are capable of handling. So I guess, it goes back to the same thing. Just, you got to work on yourself to become the best version of yourself, become the best king of yourself. But okay, yeah, that's my thoughts for now. I got to jump on this call. Okay.